We will call the Tuesday, August 23rd Planning Commission meeting to order. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Changes to the agenda?
No, Chairman.
Roll call, please.
Chairman Saylor,
Here.
Vice Chairman Jacobs,
Here.
Commissioner Helmar,
Here.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Here.
Commissioner Stoppenbrink.
Here.
Public comments under Government Code 54954.3. Members of the audience may address the commission on any item of interest to the public or on any agenda item before or during the commission's consideration of the item. State law prohibits the Planning Commission from acting on non-agenda items. Seeing there are none, we'll move right along. We do not have any items under information and consent calendar. We have one public hearing. No, we have no public hearings, and then one discussion and/or potential action item. Planning Commission adoption of resolution number 022P-007, approving site plan review application SPR 22-01 for the development of an 8-unit multifamily project at the southeast corner of Cedar Avenue and 4th Street.
Thank you, Commissioner and Commissioners, Chairman and Commissioners. Tonight, staff's recommending that the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 022P-007 with conditions for the development of a new 8-unit multifamily development at the corner of East Cedar and 4th Street. On July 25th of 2022, the City of Coalinga received an application from Jose Rivas and Ana Lourdes Rivas, who are the applicants for site plan review of the proposed 8-unit multifamily housing development located at the corner of East Cedar and 4th Street. The proposed project site consists of 2 parcels totaling 15,000 square feet that's currently zoned and designated residential high density. This proposal incorporates additional feedback from all city departments as well. The proposed project proposes to construct two-story apartment buildings, 26 feet in height, comprised of 8 multifamily units on a 15,000 square foot property. The general plan designation for the subject parcel is residential high density with a zoning designation of residential high density. The project is consistent with all the development regulations for multifamily housing as discussed in the report. In terms of development density, within the residential high density designation, the allowable density is 25 units to the acre, which would allow for a maximum of 8.5 units on this project site, which is 0.34 acres of proposed development. The proposed project consists of the development of 8 housing units, 23.5 development units to the acre, therefore would not exceed the density allowed for the project site. So when looking at site plan review, it's basically required for all residential development projects within the city. The purpose of the site plan review is to enable the community development director or the planning commission to make findings that a proposed development is in conformity with the intent and provisions of the Coalinga Municipal Code and guide the building official in the issuance of permits. So typically when we're looking at there's 4 findings of approval when looking at site plan review. And that's the proposed construction alterations are in substantial conformance with the general plan, zoning ordinances, and any applicable plans adopted by the city. The proposed construction alterations conform with all the requirements of the applicable zone districts. The proposed construction alteration conforms to all the design standards and guidelines adopted by the City Council, and the construction will not have a significant adverse effect on public health, safety, and welfare. So as described in more detail in the staff analysis, staff's determined that the proposed project is in substantial compliance with the general plan, zoning ordinance, and any applicable plans adopted by the city. So in terms of residential family development regulations, we look at the zoning standards. So we provided a table based on the lot size and basically provides the minimums and the maximum, or the minimums and what's proposed in terms of lot size, lot coverage, building height, private open space, common open space, and parking. In terms of parking, parking spaces are provided both on-site and off-site to accommodate this development. There's ample frontage on 4th Street and Cedar Street to accommodate the additional needed parking for this development, and it is located in the downtown area of the city where streets are wide and can accommodate on-street parking. In accordance with Section 9-4.302, on-street parking along the frontage lines of the site shall be counted towards fulfilling the parking requirements. What's required for this site is 22, and proposed is 8 vehicle spaces on-site and 23 on-street parking spaces for 31 total parking spaces. In terms of building entrances, the proposed project is located at the intersection of East Cedar and 4th Street, and the proposed units are located along public rights-of-way and have their primary entrances facing the right-of-way. In terms of architectural articulation, consistent with the City of Coalinga residential multifamily development regulations, the proposed project includes design features to create visual variety and avoid a large scale and bulky appearance by breaking up the long building facades into smaller modules by using variable roof forms incorporated in the building design, the use of balconies and ground level patios, and the use of facade detailing and materials such as window trim and changes in materials in an integrated composition. This development met the standard by utilizing variable roof forms and facade detailing. In terms of open space and pedestrian connections, the municipal code requires residential multifamily developments provide for private and common open space areas, which typically consist of balconies, decks, patios, and fenced yards. Common areas typically consist of landscaped areas, patios, swimming pools, barbecue areas, playgrounds, trees, ground cover of the sort. In addition, all areas not improved with buildings, parking, vehicular access ways, trash enclosures, and similar items shall be developed as common areas. So as shown, the proposed project meets the minimum common space requirement of 100 square feet per unit by providing landscaped areas, benches, ground cover, and trash enclosure. The common open space allows convenient use for outdoor living, and recreation is accessible to all the proposed residential units on the property. In addition, each residential unit includes approximately 37 square feet of private open space consisting of private patios, balconies, exterior storage, laundry facilities in each unit, which are accessible to only one residential unit. Although the private open space does not entirely meet the standard, the additional amount of common open space is more than what is required, offsetting some of that additional private open space. In terms of the citywide design guidelines, the guidelines are discretionary tools to be used with development standards in the city's zoning ordinance to guide a range of development types. The review under the design guidelines is conducted by members of city staff and at times the commission. The objective of the guidelines is to preserve the small town character of Coalinga in future single-family residential, multifamily residential, commercial, and mixed-use developments. So when we look at the different guidelines, one has to do with site plan and design, and that the proposed project groups and proposed structures and clusters around an internal parking area. In terms of building design, the proposed project includes the development of two-story buildings and creates visual interest and variety within the multifamily site. The proposed project incorporates architectural elements such as facade articulation and different building materials to generate interest to enhance the pedestrian experience so that the visual mass of the structure is reduced and well balanced. In terms of lighting, lighting will be reviewed and approved by the Coalinga Police Department to ensure that there will be no spillover lighting in accordance to Section 9-203. All outdoor walkways shall be illuminated in accordance with the requirements of Section 9-4.206. The site plan exceeds the required landscape percent of the site. Staff has included a condition of approval which requires a submittal of a separate landscape plan to the Community Development Department for review and approval prior to building permit issuance. We have talked about the parking and that it does exceed the requirements for on-street and off-street parking. And in terms of the trash enclosure, the proposed development provides for trash enclosures for the 8 multifamily units, which is sufficient for the number of units. The required trash enclosures and their size, shape, and location will be reviewed and approved by the city engineer and Mid-Valley Disposal and shown on the final site plan. Looks like there's a little bit of an error. It says it looks like 4 trash enclosures, actually 1 trash enclosure for the 8 multifamily units. In terms of signage, all signage related to the development shall be submitted on a separate sign application and reviewed and approved by the Community Development Department in accordance with the applicable sign regulations for multifamily development. The primary access point for the development will be located on the alley on 4th Street. All other access will be via the sidewalk from the on-street parking spaces provided, since the parking is provided off of the alley. In terms of utilities, all utilities are readily available for connection with the adjacent right-of-way. All utility connections will be shown on the final site plan and approved by the Planning Department and confirmed by the Public Works Department. There shall be no requirement for on-site storage for storm runoff, therefore allowing the development to discharge stormwater runoff into the existing surface system. There shall be a master meter for both water and natural gas, which shall be identified on this final site plan when submitted to the city for final approval. And then in terms of off-site improvements, the developer will be responsible for all improvements along the property frontage in accordance with the comments provided by the city engineer, which is attached. And then in terms of environmental clearance, this is, a design review process. Typically, we find these projects to be categorically exempt, and so this project qualifies as a Class 32 exemption under the CEQA guidelines for infill developments, and does meet all those criteria. So once this project is considered, then staff would prepare the notice of exemption and submit that document to the clerk's office for certification. So with that, Chairman, Commissioners, that's my report. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. Questions? Commissioner Stoppenbrink.
Okay, this is a great project, great infill. There's a huge demand for rental property. I can't support it right now because of the crisis the city is in with respect to the water. This is additional demand on the water. You're sending letters out threatening the citizens because they're overwatering, even though many of us have cut way back. And now we're adding additional demand on the water. And until such time as the city can guarantee that those restrictions will be lifted and or have the fiscal resources to purchase the $2,500 per acre foot of water that's going to be required for the spot market, I can't support it. This is just doesn't make any sense to me. And I know it's only a few units, but it sends, in my opinion, the wrong message. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm gonna second what he said, and in addition to that, I'm concerned because obviously the water issues, but going further than that, this is a complex that has all of the entry off of the front, the parking's in the back, and it's 8 units, but how many bedrooms? People typically have at least 2 cars per unit, which is going to put all of that car parking on the front, because generally what we see is when the parking is in the back and the entrance is at the front, people don't park in the back. Look at the units on Washington and stuff like that. People mostly all park on the street, and they're only providing 8 parking spaces and not the 30 required. So it's the water and the parking issue.
When it comes to the parking, our standards are to put parking in the back and put the buildings to the front and access from the public realm. Our code does allow for on-street parking to suffice for this additional, the parking demand for this site. So, I mean, it is consistent with our code. One thing I do want to remind the commission is that this is a design review. This is not really technically a discretionary action. We do not have direction from the council to, in terms of the water situation and not approving projects because of the water. But you guys are entitled to make that decision under the findings. So if there is an issue that you guys feel with utilities that we can't supply, then that definitely is something the commission can consider. But when it comes to the design criteria, the parking is permitted, in this fashion. There is ample parking available on the street, and this road is extremely wide compared to other areas that could potentially be narrower for on-street parking, and so we did take that into consideration as well. But I just wanted to at least provide those comments back when it comes to making decisions on site plan review. These are permitted by right uses. It's just a matter of we're reviewing the design of the site to ensure that it's consistent with our requirements. So, but with that, I can entertain any other comments.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Commissioner Helmer?
Okay, what is the target population for these units?
As far as I know, they're gonna be market rate units. I'm not sure, is the applicant here? It's not the applicant, okay. So the applicant's not here.
Okay. And, how does this project fit in and address the city's housing plan? The needs identified in the city's housing plan?
This would provide additional housing under, I'm not sure quite
And how are
sure.
we doing on meeting our housing objectives?
We're in a severe deficit in terms of providing housing.
Okay, so this,
Based on what our requirements are under our regional housing needs assessment, yeah, we are not quite at that goal
okay,
under the previous planning period.
okay, so this would be a small step forward towards addressing that deficit. Did you get any, input from any of the neighbors?
No, this is design review, so this is not a public,
you didn't
it's
send
not,
anything
a
out. Okay.
notice public hearing.
Okay. And I'd like a clearer picture in my mind of just, it's gonna be accessed via the alleyway? That will be the main access into the,
Yeah,
to the
it would just
parking?
be access to
So
the
that
alley into the parking
Basically
area.
between the library and the,
Yes.
okay. Has there been any assessment as to what the impact will be on the parking for the library?
Not that I know of. This would be additional parking. This parking is not necessarily, this parking isn't already here, this angled parking that's proposed. That'd be additional stripe parking.
The 8?
No.
No,
on
the eight
street.
parking would be on site.
On-site, and then
There's
you're gonna do additional, there would be additional.
23
additional
on site,
23
on Fourth Street and on
That aren't currently
Cedar.
there.
above and beyond what's already there.
Yes.
So those would be lateral parking spots.
Yeah, there's angled parking.
Okay.
Is that it?
And,
Or-
do we have any assessment as to what the water impact would be for 8 units?
It's probably not substantial. The landscaping, as we know, 70% of our water usage, even in domestic use, is primarily landscaping. There'll be no turf. It'll be all drought-resistant landscaping that'll be submitted. The council's actually maybe considering an item at the next council meeting, removing a turf requirement or turf allowance on new developments. And then it would just be 8 apartments, essentially, that would be impacting the water system. We currently have 150, 160 units that are currently under construction, so this would be an additional 8.
Okay, thank you.
Vice Chair Jacobs?
Yeah, I just got, it looked like the applicant came in, was it April for the application? Obviously, there was no water problem back then. The parking is a concern for me too. We don't know how many units there, or bedrooms we have in this 12 unit. Kind of looks like there's 4 buildings here. Are they 2-bedroom, 3 bedrooms? Is there a count that we have somewhere?
I don't know. I'd have to look and see. I may have a bedroom count.
I mean, I saw there are 1,100 square feet, almost 1,200 square feet units, so I mean, they could be 2 or 3, but it just,
I couldn't find the number of bedrooms.
no.
Is that common? We don't get to know how many.
Normally it, especially with apartments, it is provided.
Yeah, I manage some apartments and, rule of thumb, you gotta have a parking spot for each unit at least, and then you're hoping that the flow over, there's some room out below. But with the handicap in there, you really got a lot on the street here, which I think that probably the street would handle it. I'm sure that some people around there aren't thrilled about it, but the water to me is a big concern. See, now I've got to let everything die around my house right now.
Yes, that is a concern. That is a concern of everyone's. I think the water is a concern.
Is it, I mean, a recommendation for me would be we just put this on hold till we secure some water for our town.
but that would be the only thing I would comment on. I think the optics of it look terrible right now to everybody who's watching their shrubbery die.
They're 3-bedroom units, guys. They're 3-bedroom units.
3-bedroom units.
So with 3 bedrooms, depending on who's in there, you know, if you have a couple, 1 bedroom and kids in the other, then they grow up and they get their own cars, and it's not uncommon to have a lot of cars associated with a 3-bedroom unit.
Yes. Yeah.
Water impact.
Correct. I mean, what, there's 8 units, 3 bedrooms apiece. If you do a car per bedroom, that ends up being 24 cars, correct? Is my math correct? You know, there's what, 31 proposed.
And for a 3-bedroom, typically it'd be 2 parking spaces per unit, because it's one for the unit plus additional half for every additional bedroom.
Yeah, but then you end up with, like in Fox Hollow, I'm in a 3-bedroom, the people around me are mostly 3 bedrooms, but then the kids grow up and you've got 4 to 6 cars to the house.
And single family requires 2 per unit.
This is not a public hearing, but we will allow members of the audience to address the commission. Just please come up to the lectern and state your name.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Nathan Vosberg, District 3. Kind of wondering where the District 2 representative is, because this is going up in his district, and if I seen almost all of the parking being street parking, I would wonder what my residents around me would think about that. I mean, am I correct on that? Almost all the parking is on the street? Even if they're angled parking, it's all on the street, right?
There's 8 on-street and 23 off-street.
23 off-street?
On-street, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 23 on
yeah.
street. Let me tell you. So I'm not here on behalf of, you know, anybody except for myself right now, but I work right next to that area, and when there's events, that area is popping. There's tons of people. Just like the affordable housing that we did over in District 3, I was against the parking there too, and I don't understand why it is that we keep, like, we're using the public streets for, you know, to fill in for parking. It just doesn't seem right. I know over there, you know, it's a different scenario, but you watch, they're going to end up parking on the street there. They're going to end up parking in other people's parking spots over here because there's not ample parking. That's just my concern. We do need the growth. That has to happen. Coalinga needs to grow. But I think a lot of you guys have already spoken to this. We're in a water crisis. So what are we saying? We're saying as long as you come in and kowtow the socialist needs of barely using anything and just washing yourself, you can expand your water usage. But if you want to have a hot tub, you want to have a pool, you want to water your lawn, no? That's not fair. That's not right. So what we're saying is let's expand the least possible allowance for people. And I don't think that's cool. I don't think that's right. While you're telling all the rest of the residents around that, you know, hey, you can't water your grass, let everything die around you. We're going to start fining, taxing, overfees, everything on the water situation. Water rate by 2024 is going up 35%, right? And so this place here, it may not seem like a lot, and I've heard the comment before that, hey, when, you know, when the population grows, that the water grows. I haven't seen that. We haven't seen that. Our population did grow since the last census. They took our water away. We started off at 10K, then 6K, now then 4K. Now what, 2,800, 2,300, something like that? That doesn't fit. That has not been the scenario. They keep taking from us. And I love what all of you have said, and I believe that even though there is guidelines, set forth by council. I do also believe that you're the representatives that council chose to put up here to give them a good recommendation, and then if they want to override it, they could. And if it was me, I'd be sending that recommendation to them that we need to secure more water. Not that we don't need that space and we don't need places for people to move, because we're also in a housing crisis, a major housing crisis. There's nothing available. And I apologize, you guys are in a rock and a hard place, but wow, water is a big deal. So I appreciate the ability to talk. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you. Does anybody else have any, commissioners?
Well, I would, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we table this project until such time as the concerns expressed, especially with the water, are addressed by the city council and city management.
You're making a motion on that?
Yes, that was
Okay.
my motion.
Is there's a motion on the floor to table this resolution until further water is available? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Pruitt made the second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Stoppenbrink,
Aye.
Commissioner Pruitt,
Aye.
Commissioner Helmar,
No.
Vice Chairman Jacobs,
Aye.
Chairman Saylor.
No. The resolution passed 3-2, Helmer and myself voting no. So the resolution is to table this
Okay.
for the foreseeable future, I would think. Moving right along to department reports.
I have none, Chairman.
Any other communique?
Nope.
All righty, well, any announcements? Perfect, all righty, well, meeting adjourned, thank you so much.
It would be, if I can pull up my calendar here. Gonna be in the 13th of September.
Is that special workshop still on for the